our local governments to be the ones who can generate their own energy. Hitherto, the entire country has just really relied on a state-owned energy generation and transmission company, which is called ESCOM, and we've now agreed that we now must grasp the multi-energy source era and have various forms of energy, solar, hydro, wind, and a number of other options that we have available. And that can also be generated by private sector entities. Now, this has been greatly welcomed, and we have now embarked on that journey. One of the areas where we've been a little bit slow, and quite slow, is releasing the spectrum to allow new innovations, fast data transmission, and broadband. We've now embraced that. We're now in the process of doing an auction of the spectrum. This has been done in a number of other countries, so we are doing that. We're also looking at network industries. Our ports have to be repositioned, our roads, and we've now also embarked on a massive infrastructure build process to build not only roads, our dams, and a whole number of other social infrastructure. So the economic recovery is then pivoted on all the reforms that we believe we want to make. But in arriving at these reforms, we've worked together with the private sector. We've also worked together with the unions. We've also worked together with social partners. So the issue of collaboration, the issue of working cohesively has underpinned everything that we have done up till now. And when we released the plan, it was welcomed by all, and now we're in the process of implementing it. It also touches on an important area which had been neglected in the past: visas for professionals and other skilled people who want to come and work in South Africa, entry visas. We're also focusing on the tourism sector. Much as right now we are really engulfed in challenges of COVID-19, but we will get over this. And we're going to be restructuring a number of other sectors of our economy: agriculture, mining, you name it. We are manufacturing as well. So we are now in an era of true restructuring and true reform. And this is going to reposition the economy of South Africa.
No, thank you for sharing that vision and also the action plan, Mr. President. We know also with your background from business, you know also what is important in that respect. I saw in the news that you were able to buy 20 million vaccines. I think it was from AstraZeneca, but you also in your introductory remarks mentioned this vaccine nationalism. So how do you see the next months when it comes to dealing with the pandemic in South Africa? And you also, of course, have still your hat on as the chair of African Union, and you have got a lot of positive remarks on the way African Union has handled the first wave and how you came together in this. And Africa has been weathering it better than many other places in the world.
Well, as I said in my remarks, we are concerned about vaccine nationalism. The rich countries of the world went out and acquired large doses of vaccines from the developers and manufacturers of these vaccines. And some countries have even gone beyond and acquired up to 4 times what their population needs. And that was aimed at hoarding these vaccines. And now this is being done to the exclusion of countries, of other countries in the world that most need this. And it was a great, plaudable effort by the World Health Organization to set up the COVAX facility, where it felt that we needed to agglomerate all our acquisition processes so that there can be equity in the distribution and in the access to vaccines. Now, rich countries in the world are holding on to these vaccines, and we are saying, release the excess vaccines that you have ordered and hoarded. There is just no need for a country which perhaps has about 40 million people goes and acquires 120 million doses or even 160 million. And yet the world needs access to those vaccines. Now, we, in realizing how the world's richest countries are behaving, we've set up the vaccine acquisition task team in Africa, and we've been marginally successful. But we need those who have hoarded the vaccines to release the vaccines so that other countries can have them, but also to have financial assistance. And in releasing the vaccines, we're not saying that just give them away. We are also saying, in addition to yes, doing that, we are saying, do make them available so that those countries that do not have access to vaccines right now should have access. And we want vaccines as quickly as other countries do that have already started, because we are all not safe if some countries are vaccinating their people and other countries are not vaccinating. We all must act together in combating coronavirus, because it affects all of us equally, and therefore our remedies, our actions to combat it must also be equal, and they must be overarching for all of us and not be something that special countries or certain countries have on their own to the exclusion of others.
No, thank you so much, Mr. President. I think we all know that COVID anywhere is COVID everywhere. And if you don't fight it all over the world, it will also then potentially mutate, and it will then hit also those countries that are already vaccinated. So this vaccine nationalism is also biting yourself. I think that's very clear. So we know that this free trade agreement in Africa is a huge step forward. It's more than 1 billion people. It is a huge potential also for more trade and investments in Africa, but also to Africa. How significant do you think this free trade agreement is, and what are the next steps to make it into really a kind of EU free trade, a single market of Africa?
Well, the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement is one of those I would call revolutionary sea change initiatives that the African continent has embarked upon. And if I think about the formation of the the OAU, which was formed many years ago by our forebears in 1963, this is possibly the most important initiative that the African continent has embarked upon. Our forebears, our founders, wanted Africa to act together, to be integrated, and it has taken us some time to arrive at that. And integration means much more when it affects the economic lives of the countries of the continent. We're a market of 1.2 billion people, and it's a growing market as seen by everyone around the world. It's a youthful market, and it's a market of people who want to go forward and grow their economies and grow their countries. And this is a great advantage to us as the African continent. Now, most of the countries, the great majority of the countries have signed up to this free trade area agreement, and trading has now been switched on from the 1st of January. And now countries on the African continent are going ahead with trading with each other, rather than continuing to import goods that are made elsewhere in the world. African countries are going to be able to make their own goods and trade with each other. And we actually saw visions of the future with the African medical supplies platform that we set up, because in a way that was like the precursor to the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, because African countries were brought together on this platform and they started procuring medicines, medical supplies together. But they also started going beyond that, because producers and manufacturers in Africa started flighting their own products on this platform. And through that, African countries started trading with each other. South Africa, for instance, has already through this platform been able to trade up more than a few billion rands based on the existence of this platform. So when we now have the Africa Free Trade Area, we are going to see greater trade, we're going to see greater participation, and tariffs are going to be reduced or eliminated to a large extent. And as the years go by, we will become a free tariff area, and we will be a free trade area where we are going to be able to trade with one another. And the greatest joy is going to be in walking in a store in Johannesburg and finding goods, which we don't find now. Finding coffee from Kenya, we don't have that right now. Finding coffee from Ethiopia in our stores, tea from Rwanda, and so on. We just don't have those type of products right now. And this free trade area is going to open the door for trading for African producers and manufacturers. But the other advantage is going to be in boosting manufacturing, in boosting industrialization, because all of a sudden, a market will have been opened, and manufacturers, entrepreneurs, and industrialists will now know that we now have a market. Because when you have a market, you know that you can be innovative, you can be creative, because you have a playground to be able to trade your goods and wares. So this is going to be the great advantage, and I applaud African leaders for having grasped this nettle, and now we are moving forward to begin the trading process on the African continent.
No, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership, and also thank you for your clear vision on the free trade in Africa. This is then Africa's century also, and instead of beggar your neighbor, you should prosper your neighbor. Thank you so much, Mr. President, and all the best to you and your countrymen also in this struggle that we're all in with the pandemic. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, there you go. President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering a virtual State of the World address to the World Economic Forum Davos Dialogues. The WEF has convened the Davos Dialogues from today to the 29th of this month within the context of the Great Reset Dialogues, a new series of special dialogues to discuss and, I guess, determine a post-COVID-19 socio-economic order. Now, the discussions, as I understand it, will focus particularly on how the global community can reset priorities and reform systems as a response to the emerging global threats resulting from climate change to extreme weather events, something that we're grappling with at the moment, trade wars and protectionism, large-scale cyber attacks and the breakdown of critical IT infrastructure and networks. Also, increasing inequalities and the emergence of some would describe it as fractured, multipolar and multi-conceptual world. So you heard President Cyril Ramaphosa there. He had been invited to share the outlook of South Africa's economic recovery amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and discuss South Africa's achievements as the outgoing chairperson of the African Union. All right, that was his address there. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, get you more news. Stay with us.